Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the Dell Expert Network. This is Channel Vision editor Gerald Baldino here, and over the next hour, we'll be exploring the top trends that are driving MSP growth in 2021. Today, we're with Scott Schaefer, who's manager of MSP technology deployment programs at Intel Corporation, and Esteban Blanco, who is Chief Geek Officer over at Blanco IT. Please stay tuned for a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can submit them through the Q&A portal located at the bottom of the Zoom platform. At this point, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Scott to begin. Scott?
Thanks, Gerald. So thanks everybody for joining us. We're talking about growth in the channel today, and this is a unique time. I mean, COVID obviously has been incredibly unique. And now we're kind of coming out of the dungeon of COVID, and growth is going to happen. Things are going to return to more normal, but some key things are not going to be the way they were before. And so we're going to talk about how to take advantage of what's happening. I'll show you briefly Intel's view on what is going on in the channel. But then more importantly, Esteban's going to come on and give a view from the channel. So Esteban Blanco is a friend of ours. We've done many programs together and worked together for a long while. And he's really the value in the webinars as we do them, is to have somebody in the channel who knows what they're doing, is growing, very successful MSP, and this is what they see in the channel. So I think you'll really like what Esteban has to show you. And also Alicia Bowling is key to this. She is a program manager at Dell Expert Network, which is a key enabler for what you might want to do, and in our view, what you should want to do in your markets right now at this time. So I'm looking forward to this. It's just such an interesting time. So I'm just by background, I manage the MSP technology deployment programs team here at Intel. What does that mean? We bring a solution to individual MSPs and have them try it out. It sounds pretty basic, but we do it in such a way that your trial of that solution is very efficient. And the way we do that is by giving you training that's really right on the money about the solution, train your technicians and engineers, and when appropriate, your salespeople on how to use or sell that solution. And then we focus on what you think the value proposition is. If we didn't think there was a value proposition, we wouldn't have built it. Same goes for Dell, obviously. But what matters is what you guys think. What do you see when you use it in your actual customer environment? So that's a model that we've been doing for about a decade. It works really well for MSPs, works for us, so we're going to keep doing it. And at this point, we've done well over 500 one-to-one MSP engagements. That's the kind of thing we've done with Esteban. It's the kind of thing we'd love to do with you as well, if it looks like it's of interest to you. And you'll have an opportunity to tell us that as we go on. So that's me. Our conversation today, we'll talk about the environment. I'll show you some interesting things that we're seeing in the environment. Then we'll talk about 3 trends that we think are key, and then jump from there into asking Esteban what he thinks about it, because that's what's going to be of more value to you all. So that's where we're going. If you hit us with questions in the Q&A, we'll try and answer them on the fly. And if not, we'll answer them in the Q&A session at the end. So that's where we're going. So the current business environment, I want to show you a couple of different lenses by which you could look at it, a couple of different pieces of research. So this is from Constellation Research, and this was kind of mid-COVID. Where's IT spending going? And I thought this isn't really news, but it's just really interesting to see it graphically like this. For almost everybody in COVID time, IT spending went down, except for the verticals where you would expect that it did not, right? Government, food, technology, healthcare, and real estate, all of those, for obvious reasons, got hotter during the pandemic, not colder. So I thought that was interesting. But all of these are going to swing back as things return to something like normal. We don't think it's going to return to the old normal, and we'll talk about that. But there's just kind of a good graphical view. It's like, yeah, we saw change in our businesses because of the pandemic. So that's what it looked like. Another kind of lens to look at it through, this is from Spiceworks. So this research, they obviously focus on small and mid-sized business, which for most of us on this call, that's our focus as well. And this is, what are you planning to do? And there's no surprises here. Small and mid-sized businesses, they're planning to accelerate digital transformation, planning to improve security and governance, better training for remote employees because there's going to be more remoteness in the world, improve IT, standardize, and look at disaster recovery, which is, closely related to security. The thing I think is interesting about this slide is even if you assume all of these buckets overlap, which they don't, but even if you assume they did, then that's over a third of the channel planning to spend more money. So that alone should, get our attention. And it's because they don't overlap perfectly. It's much more than a third of the channel. So people are in a mood to spend. That's obviously for all of us good news. They continue to see their IT as strategic and more strategic and understand that things are changing. So we'll talk about a number of those changes. So that's just two lenses to look at it through. This is a no surprise slide. Where's the total market going over time? And this is looking at edge computing. So this includes all edge devices, PCs, tablets, laptops, etc. The two things to note that are really, really good news is one, it continues to grow. That's, we're fortunate to work in an industry where growth is the norm, right? So yes, it will continue to grow. And the purple at the bottom, the services continues to get pulled up. So, or pardon me, I think services is the green. Services continues to get larger. So as some sort of IT service provider, which, all of you are, that's good news. The market continues to grow. There's money to be made. There's customers to be won. There's growth within existing customers, all very, very good news. So that's just three quick looks at, things are in good shape. Things are going to return to normal, sort of. So what won't be normal? And the key thing is, and I don't think this is news to anyone as well, but there's going to be more remote work going forward than there was in the past. So some people will return to the office. A significant number of people either won't return to the office or won't be there as much, and then they're in the hybrid worker bucket. But and I know all of you have experienced this firsthand, when people are remote, things are different. Things are harder to do. Things are harder to manage. Things are harder to reach. People need different tools. Workers are adjusting to a different environment, all of which have meant opportunity for you as managed service providers. And Esteban will talk about that specifically. But the new next normal is going to be slightly different. It's a good time to reflect on, I'm glad I'm not in commercial real estate, because they're going to hurt. There won't be as much office space needed going forward. So that's kind of what we see is the biggest change that wasn't expected. There's another big change that was expected, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that's the biggest change that wasn't expected. So given all that, I want to talk 1, 2, 3 about 3 trends that we think you should watch, and we think Intel and Dell solutions are very well adapted to. So this was from CompTIA. They do this every year. It's always really interesting to see what trends they name as the top 10. And there's 3 of them that I'll focus on. There's no new normal. What should you, as members of the channel, do about that? You're going to have to respond differently to customer changes. What should you do about that? And then security continues to be a key concern of your customers and the world. What should you do about that? So that's the 3 trends that we'll look at. I'll just give you 3 slides on that, and then we'll jump into talking to Esteban about what he's doing. So there's no new normal. We talked about this. I won't belabor it. But the graphic at the bottom, which is basically saying successful businesses have what? They have business agility and business resilience. That's not new. But it just is worth thinking about. That is what you want your customers to have. Obviously, you want to have it as well. but that's what you want your customers to have. So a key question is, how can I help my small and mid-sized customers be more agile and be more resilient? And Esteban has a great story on how he does that with his customers. And so we thought this was worth just putting up front, even though it's not new, agility, resilience. Yeah, we've heard that forever. It's really what it takes for your customers to succeed. If you help them do that, you are the hero. You are the preferred provider. You are the strategic provider. You are the essential provider. So your stickiness goes up. The cost of switching for your customers becomes unacceptable, and they're not going to do it. And it also allows you to grow your business within the customer. So all of this is, if you focus on their need for agility and resilience, you're going to be way ahead of the game. So trend number 2, channel firms have got to respond to customer changes. And one of the biggest is that the PC that they're using, the workstation that they're sitting in front of, is in a remote location, often a home, which presents challenges, as almost all of you have certainly experienced. It's harder to manage. In some ways, it's harder for the end user to be satisfied. They've got challenges they didn't have before as they try to figure out how to use their tool in a different environment. The security risks inherent in that new environment are, need attending. So this is where you have to adapt your practices and your tools to make sure that you're serving them. And this goes right back to business agility and business resilience. Your customers are experiencing this friction in spades. Their people are at home, networking is different, performance is different. They're worried about their employees' ability to do work as they should be. So for you to walk in and show, hey, we can keep things under control, we can keep things agile and resilient, that's just a great opportunity. So the third trend is security. So I call security the gift that won't quit giving, because not only does the need for security services, the need for protection, the need for risk mitigation continue to grow as complexity grows, as the strategies of hackers and the bad guys get more sophisticated and vary more and more, the need for expertise is going to grow as well. But at the same time, the customer's understanding of their need is also growing. And that's really good news for you and for them. They understand. The more time goes on, the more everybody has heard a horror story. The more they've played a golf game with somebody who had their business either severely damaged or destroyed by one hack, the more they see something in the press about a disaster story for a small or mid-sized business. Security has never been just a large enterprise problem. So by any means, right? In a lot of ways, it's much more easy and more lucrative to target small and mid-sized businesses. So they need you, and they need you to be good at this. How the heck do you get good at it? Esteban's got some really cool things to say about that. But that's the third trend that we think needs paying attention to in terms of your own growth and your own profitability. So when it comes to security, one size does not fit all. And the reason I love this slide, here's 3 graphics, 3 different ways to look at managed security offerings. None of them are simple, right? None of them are like, oh yeah, we'll go do that. This is something you've got to grow, but there's ways to do that. And I'm going to ask Esteban some pointed questions about how would he start if he was starting over. The key message, at least from Intel, is you need to start your security offering and you need to grow it. And the way you do that is a piece at a time. You can either, you can grow by adding pieces to the solution, either by products or by service offerings or by partners that you engage with. All of those are viable strategies. So, and Esteban can tell you more about it. So that is kind of the way we see it. So I want to call in Esteban. Esteban, how you doing?
Hey, Scott, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. Thanks so much for joining us again, Esteban. It's always
Absolutely.
great to talk to you about how you guys do what you do. So kind of introduce your company, Esteban. Who are you? Who do you serve? How'd you guys get started, etc.?
Well, Scott, thank you very much. I'm always honored to do these webinars with Intel and the Dell Expert Network. It's always great to be a part of it. My name is Esteban Blanco. I'm the Chief Geek Officer for Blanco IT. We are an Arlington, Texas-based MSP. We're in the beautiful city of Arlington, Texas, the home of the Texas Rangers and the Dallas Cowboys. We have really cool stadiums over here and an incredible entertainment district. We have about 60 plus managed services customers, MSP customers that we serve right now. Total customers, we probably have about 110. We have customers from all walks of life, if you please. So we realized very early on, when we started the company, I made the mistake as the owner to focus on a specific vertical, and very quickly realized that if that vertical had any kind of issues, we were going to hurt. And so one of the things that we learned very, very early on, and we're fortunate to learn very, very, very early on, was that diversification was key and extremely valuable, especially during COVID. Of course, if you're MSP for hotels, if you're an MSP for restaurants, you probably felt that hit last year very strongly. We're very, very proud members of the Dell Expert Network, and it's I can't say enough good things about the Dell Expert Network, and Alicia's going to touch on that later. And also very proud to be members of the Intel MSP network as well.
And one other thing I'll add, Esteban, is that last bullet. There's Esteban's email. It's interesting, as I've worked in the MSP channel for well over 10 years, that Intel has their go-to guys, right? And it's not the people that sell the most, it's the people that understand the market and the dynamics and how to make greater margins in the market. We have all our go-to guys. All of those MSPs, like Esteban, are highly connected with peers. So I put Esteban's email with his permission on here. He would love to hear from you guys. And that's maybe the most important bullet in his whole presentation. Just, to reach out, and you should be doing this with other, peers who you're not perhaps directly competing with, but it's interesting how all of the really smart guys in the channel that I know do exactly this. So, and Esteban does it. And does it a lot. So there's his email. And it's also, I put it on the other slide so you guys could have it there. So, Esteban, there's a ton we could talk about. I put some prompting questions on and a number of notes on the following slides, and we'll just go through them. A lot of this stuff overlaps, so we'll circle back some. But let me start with crazy year with a COVID pandemic, and it looks like we're finally starting to come out of it. What do you think people like you and your peers need to do to stay healthy and grow?
Scott, that's a question that I've gotten not only from you, but other MSPs that are, that we know. They ask the question, how are you guys surviving and feeling about this situation? I can tell you that COVID made Blanco IT grow, which is, I know, the craziest thing to hear. Because I was frankly sitting in my living room as we were being asked to stay home and, watching this unfold. And I thought to myself, well, this could be it. This could tank us. And then I realized I didn't even have time sometimes to even go home. When we were moving people out of the offices to go work from home, it was just absolute insanity. And we had a growth of almost 125% last year. And so while we're cognizant that growth is not going to be a sustainable growth in the sense that in a normal year, you're not going to have 125% growth, you can also see the trends and realize that growth is to be had everywhere. How is that growth happening? Well, you gotta become really, really good at security now. And why do I say that? I would probably touch it up a little more later, but everybody working from home now, well, hackers also know that people are working from home. So what does that mean? That means that they're going to try to get into your network at home. And so what do you do as an MSP to tell your customers, hey, I know that this doesn't sound like a reality, but it is, how the people that are accessing your network from home, are they protected? Is that home computer that they're going to use protected? And there's opportunity there for you to not only sell your services, but beyond selling the services and making money, is doing the right thing for your client, is ensuring that your client is secure, because that's your job. Your job is to make sure that you partner with your client to ensure that they're secure and that their data is always available and they're agile in the growth and changes that they have. One of the trends that I have been seeing a lot is, of course, security, but also people that are wanting to do really cool things in their homes and putting more smart IoT type of situation over there. And so how do you do that? You make sure they have a firewall. You make sure they have proper Wi-Fi throughout, that covers their entire home, because people were staying at home more. And again, it goes to, if people are going to start working from home full time, you have to have the proper connection, because again, you're protecting your customers' money by ensuring that their workforce working from home have all the tools necessary to work securely and not sit there and wait, 20-30 seconds for something to pop up because they don't have the proper internet or they don't have proper Wi-Fi coverage in where they're working. I have one of, yeah.
I'm curious, you said 125% growth, which is like, maybe never have a year like that again. What's been the hardest part of that? I have a guess, but I mean, clearly you had to increase some resource to get that done, right? What has been the hardest part of handling that much growth?
Well, interesting you say that. We actually didn't increase workforce. I just slept in my car more because it was, and this is not an exaggeration, because it was all hands on deck. When Tarrant County decided and said, we're going to go ahead and send everybody home, we started receiving the phone calls, and it was just one of those situations where you said, all right, here we go, it's crunch time. And so there were a couple of times that, we just worked overnight and got everything done as we needed to. Fortunately, a lot of our clients had heard and agreed that they had to have, instead of desktop laptops for the workforce that needs to have access remotely, and also, have proper VPN and remote capability. Some other customers have their servers already on the cloud. Other customers had their servers in data centers. And so those customers, they called and said, are we ready? Oh, absolutely, you're ready. Well, what about email? It's on the cloud. What about this? It's on the cloud. We're ready to go. But no, we didn't have to increase workforce, because we just strapped our boots, like we say here in Texas, and we went for it.
So just horse it up, right? Sometimes
Yes,
that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Are there any tool, in terms of COVID era business, any tools that either were or have become essential to serving the more remote worker, the fact that there's more of them now?
I go back to it, man. Security is key. I think that everybody listening in right now understands that the amount of attacks that we have seen in the past year and a half has more than doubled. And these attacks are becoming better, more targeted. And again, it's just going back to security. How is that endpoint touching your client's network? And if that endpoint is not secure, what could happen? You have to ask these questions to yourself, and then ask yourself, if I was in my client's situation, if I was the owner of this company, can I afford to lose this data? And would I spend the extra money to ensure that these endpoints are secure, so when they get to my data, they do it in an encrypted way, so that we don't lose this data? And so that's, I think, the thing that has to be driven and just hammered into our brains, that we have to think outside the box on security and realize that this is not the way it's going to keep going. It's not going to go back to maybe we'll get hacked. It's going to happen. I mean, we see it in our dashboard. Sometimes we see, somebody trying to do a brute force attack on a server, we see the logins that they're attempting. It's a reality and it's there. And I don't care how small the company is, they want it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a number of, I want to ask about the interface between you and the customer and how you drive that, both in terms of listening to them and in terms of what you explain to them. So, and it's covered on this slide in a number of ways, but how do you communicate the value that you're delivering to customers? Because you guys obviously, you're delivering a complex set of values, very dynamic set of values, and you want the customer to understand that to the extent they can so that they're happy paying you for it, right? How do you do that? Is it reporting? Is it one-to-one? What's your guys' practice?
Scott, we realize, I'll summarize it in one word, and that's relationships. I am not the best IT company or the best IT brain in the world. I know people that are my peers, that are friends of mine, that are 10 times smarter than I am. The difference is that I'm good at fostering relationships with people, and that those relationships are key. Where is the relationship between you and the customer key? Because when the customer does not see you as a vendor, when the customer sees you as a partner, as a virtual CIO, if you please, to their company, when you bring things to them about expenditures, they're not going to question it because they can trust you. They know that you have their best interest at heart. And how do you prove that? Is by every time that you are going to buy equipment, for example, you think, well, if I know that they're struggling right now because of COVID, I'm not going to charge the extra whatever percent it is on a computer to sell to them. I'm just going to give them my pricing so they can buy the equipment that they need. That those relationships and fomenting those relationships has been key, because what I've realized is that even though we're very good at what we do, again, I know people that are much better at what they do than me, is that they're hiring me. They're hiring me because they trust me. And this is true for any business. I believe that this is true for any business. And so having that business acumen of showing the customer that you really care and be sincere about it, that this is that you have a stake in this, into their company, to ensure that they have the absolute best solution available at the best price available, for them to be agile, for them to be able to take the hit, if you please, when big change happens like COVID. It's absolutely key. One of the things, again, that we saw was having to upgrade home environments, and we've had to go into homes of key employees that be the financial employees, HR employees, for example, and go into their homes and go, well, guess what? You're going to have a firewall in here, and putting an actual firewall between that modem from the ISP and their internal network, and separating, for example, their Wi-Fi, to creating a IoT signal that does not see the other internal network. So all of the kids, for example, can look at YouTube and download their games and all that stuff in a separate Wi-Fi signal, and then have a signal of Wi-Fi for that home that is specifically to that person who's going to be working from home. We are also obsessed with customer service. And one of the things that we practice and I do is that I want to make sure that our customers are always happy. And I always tell them, if at any point, any day, you don't feel that you can give us a 5-star review on Google, I need to know about it, because the entire relationship from beginning to end has to feel like a 5-star review for us. And if we don't fit that we've not done our job. And it was interesting because we were in Austin setting up a client, and Luke, who's my technician, was doing some work, and I noticed that he was being very specific about how he was laying out the cables, and then taking the vacuum and vacuuming the dirt or the stuff that he put on the ground. And I said, Luke, why are you doing that? And he just turned and smiled and said, it's the Blanco IT way. And that's what customers want to see. They want to see excellence in everything that you touch for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. So what I sense from you is part of the customer relationship is you just show up in all the right ways. The sleeping in the car is a form of really wanting to show up. Are there any regular drumbeat things you do? Like, do you do quarterly business reviews or strategy reviews with clients, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I like to eat, and anybody that knows me knows that I like to eat, and I think that it's obvious when you see me, but I love to take my clients out to lunch. I love to be able just to talk to them about, who are you married to, or who are your children? What do you like to do? Because when you know those things, it's like any good salesperson, right? When you know those things, you can actually talk to them about life, and then again build and foment that relationship. To me, again, it's making a phone call, sending a quick email. We for example, and I don't say this just to say, look how good we are, but this is one thing that was clear to me during COVID, that our nonprofits were not taking any donations because people immediately, I know that I was one, kind of, we held on to our money because we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And so we knew that our nonprofits were hurting. So we called the nonprofits, and those clients that we knew were getting hit, like the bars and restaurants that we have, we told them, we're going to continue servicing your and monitoring your equipment. We're not going to bill you until you tell us that we can. And one of them said, wait, but I don't want to accrue this massive bill. I said, this is not an accrual. We're giving you the service for free until the day that you can call me and tell me, hey, we're back on our feet, we can start paying you again. And we absolutely did this for a bunch of our customers that were in that situation, because again, you cannot call yourself a partner if you're not willing to stand in the rough times with them. So for me, it made more sense for me to foot the bill and pay for it myself than lose the customer. And guess what?
When you do that, to a nonprofit, the executive director of the nonprofit tells every member of the board what you just did, right? And every member of the board probably runs a business or is pretty close to somebody running a business.
Yeah, and again, Scott, we didn't do that for thinking of business. We did that because it was the right thing to do at the time. And the thing that we learned from that is, number one, our customers were extremely good about calling us and saying, hey man, we're back up and running. Can't thank you enough for helping us there. Yeah. And secondly, we have a client for life because they know that we sincerely care for them. We sincerely want to be part of that family.
Yeah. Yeah, that is great. I know in terms of specific solutions, Esteban, comment on vPro platforms, because I believe you're using vPro platforms as part of this remote reach and part of your security strategy.
Yeah, man, vPro is an incredible technology, and I encourage anybody that is buying equipment, buy your Dell computers with Intel vPro, because your life is going to become 10 times easier by being able to manage these endpoints, secure these endpoints, and be able to do the many things that Intel vPro is going to allow you to do with it. So yeah, absolutely. That's in my opinion, that's a must, because again, in a COVID situation, if you have the right tools available to you, then you don't have to scramble and panic, right? It's just literally log into a portal and there is everything that you need to see. So extremely important for sure.
Yeah, and I would add, for people that aren't familiar with vPro, it brings some hardware-based remote capabilities to the table. Two specifically that are important to MSPs. One is a remote power on, power off, which sounds like Wake on LAN. It is like Wake on LAN, except it works because it's hardware-based. It's not flaky. You can always reach the machine, turn it on, turn it off, do what you need to do. And then the other is KVM remote control, which sounds like Log Me In. It is like Log Me In, but it's much more robust. You can always get the connection. You don't lose the connection when you reboot. You just watch the reboot. You can boot the BIOS. You can boot your remote image. It means you can get most of what you need done remotely instead of getting in a truck and driving out to a customer however far away. So can make a big difference in terms of your staff utilization, right? In terms of how much you can get done with the assets you have.
Absolutely, especially if you think about on a situation where in other states where it was from one day to the next where they told them you can't go to the office, and what they have is desktops, and you have to use Wake on LAN to turn on that computer, get into the computer and set up something like, Google Remote Desktop just to have something quickly for them to be able to get in. Well, that saves your bacon immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we find that from the MSPs that we've worked with, vPro deployment programs, we find that once the technician or the engineer sees what it does, they're gonna really lean on the boss to standardize on vPro, because he's the guy or gal who it's 4 o'clock on Friday and in comes this call that means I'm getting in the truck and going to a customer on an emergency, or they get the text at 10 a.m. Saturday morning and it's the same thing. When with vPro, could be a 5-minute fix rather than 3 hours out of your day thing. So, well, good. So this is great, Esteban. Let me pull in Alicia to comment on Dell Expert Network and some of the things that are happening there that can really make the kind of things that you're talking about easier to execute. And then we'll come back in the Q&A and cover questions and have more questions for you, Esteban. So stay tuned. So Alicia, I'll go ahead and flip your slides if you tell me when to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks, Esteban, for really leading up to this. Like Esteban said, he's one of our elite Dell Expert Network members. So we really appreciate his contribution and telling us about his business and sharing with you guys, and also sharing about his experience in the program. So just to start kind of high level, what the Dell Expert Network is, it's a rewards and incentives program for MSPs and IT consultants at Dell that kind of rewards you for recommending Dell to your end users as opposed to recommending another hardware vendor. So it's a little bit different of a program than the channel. So we have our traditional Dell channel that I'm sure everyone is pretty familiar with. So that's more of a reselling motion, as where the Dell Expert Network, like Esteban says, you recommend that equipment to your end users and you pass on that discount that you receive to them. And then for doing so, Dell rewards you with all these 5 benefits here. So I'm just going to take you through the benefits, really quickly. Not every MSP is going to see value in every single benefit, but I don't know a single MSP that has joined the program and said, not a single one of these benefits fits with my model. So we'll kind of get started. And once you join the program, it is free to join. So just keep that in mind. It's just a simple email to get signed up, but you'll be assigned a dedicated account manager in either Round Rock, Texas or Nashville, Tennessee. So good US-based support. They're supported by a team of specialists. So you'll have that one kind of account manager, but you'll have specialists from our enterprise level, licensing, VMware, cloud, whatever it may be that you or your end users need. They're going to have a specialist on their team to help you size those projects and make sure you get quotes at the right price. We all know that lead time and supply is a big issue right now. Not something that we can solve on a large scale, but for each individual client, that account manager will work with you to make sure that, if there's a timeline that your customer needs to hit, they'll help you navigate what that landscape currently is to get the equipment there in time. So Scott, if we want to go over to shortcut and support, we have two kind of topics here. You'll get access to a tool called Tech Direct, which essentially just lets you log into a portal to self-log support tickets for your end users. So if you've diagnosed that they have a a failed hard drive, motherboard, whatever that may be, instead of calling into support or having one of your techs call into support and waste 20 or 30 minutes on the phone talking to them about what's wrong, you can just go ahead and self-log a support ticket in the Tech Direct dashboard, and self-dispatch parts to yourself. Pro support's always still there if you need them. If you need a call and talk through whatever the issue is and you haven't diagnosed it yet, they're still there to help you. But if you've already diagnosed the problem, we don't want to waste your time on the phone. Just giving you that access to log in and get the problem fixed yourself. And then also access to a cool tool called Live Optics, which is an analytics tool that you can run on your end user's environment to help you size for new and upcoming projects, identify bottlenecks, just give you a good peek inside of the IT environment. This is especially helpful if you're acquiring a new customer that has legacy equipment that you haven't been involved in installing, just to kind of give you a glimpse into what's running, what's working, how it's all performing there, so you can come in and make suggestions for upgrades and sizing needs for growth, and whatever that may look like for each individual end user. Scott, we can go to the next slide. This is just the dashboard that I was mentioning with Tech Direct, just to give you a visual. You can go to technical support here. You can dispatch those parts. This is basically just to save you time. The whole premise of the program is to make dealing with Dell easier, to make that vendor relationship smoother. So this is just a dashboard to help save you and your tech's time. It's pretty simple. Moving on, Scott, the next benefit is our DEN portal. This is a typical portal that you'll have, partner portal that you probably have with different vendors. It's just one glimpse to show you how your account is performing, what kind of tier you're in. As I mentioned, Esteban is one of our elite partners in Dell Expert Network. There's no fee to join the program, but as you move up through the different tiers, you'll get access to different benefits, different opportunities with our program. So while there are no minimums to meet quarterly or yearly, if you do meet certain thresholds, we love to give you extra rewards for doing so. Another part of the portal is our resources tab, and this is something we put a lot of work into. I know that MSPs love free resources, white papers. They want to stay up to date on what's new and coming out with Dell, so your end users don't throw you a curveball. You want to make sure that you're able to answer the questions that they give you, so we try to give you at your fingertips in this portal a lot of resources on different products and new things that we have coming out. So when your customers come to you and ask you about, the new generation of server launch or whatever it may be, you already have access to resources to be educated on that. And this is something that we update. We add probably 2 to 3 new white papers on different topics every quarter. So I would at least recommend logging into this portal monthly, checking out our resources tab, and the featured resources that you see there is what we update most frequently. And just so you can stay on top of it, share with your colleagues, share with your techs to make sure you know what's always happening at Dell. So the next one, we kind of skipped over rewards because we're going to circle back to it here in a minute. But the last benefit that I'm going to talk about is for Dell Financial Services. This is one of those benefits that the MSPs who utilize it really love it, but it's not something that's going to be realized with every single sale because it is pretty specific in use. So this benefit allows your end user to finance your service fees on their Dell financing plan. So this was especially helpful during COVID because we had a lot of different financing, 0% financing options there at the beginning for customers who needed to procure more technology, needed to make the shift to remote, but didn't have the extra capital, like Scott and Esteban were saying. They wanted to hold on to those dollars, but they still needed to upgrade their technology. This Dell Financial Services really helped them do so. So let's say you have a client that's wanting to replace the PCs in their office, you can actually send us your statement of work and we'll add those services into their financing plan. And then Dell pays you directly for your services. So it allows your end user to finance the equipment and finance your services through Dell. They pay us back directly. Dell pays you up front in full, and then it just consolidates billing for your end user to make it easier for everyone. Now, this is, of course, contingent on financing approval for your end user. And, this is a process that you're not going to do on every opportunity, but just something we like to touch on quickly to make sure it's available for you to utilize. And that's something your account manager, if you're interested in utilizing this benefit, can work on. This is where we kind of swing back around to the rewards. So in our program, anything you purchase internally or that your end users purchase, you earn a base 3% in rewards on. Right now, you can actually earn up to 8% back in Dell rewards. We have two different kind of contests going on. So anything in our ISG portfolio, which is our server storage or networking products, you are going to earn an extra 3% rewards on until the end of May. So that'll get you up to 6% in rewards back. And then if your end users utilize that financial services option, that lease or PC as a service, you get a bonus 2% back in rewards. So you can actually earn 8% back in rewards right now on certain products with certain payment methods. And those go to your company and you can use them for anything on the Dell website. You can earn up to $5,000 back a quarter. We have plenty of MSPs who cap out their rewards every quarter, and that can be used for your internal IT upgrades. It can be used as a door opener to procure new clients. Basically, if you want to buy Christmas presents for your kids, we got some drones on the website. Whatever you'd like to use those rewards for is totally up to you. But again, it's just a reward and us saying thank you for kind of recommending Dell to your end users. And the last slide is just talking about how you can get involved, how you can sign up. My email's there in the middle. Connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email, say, hey, I want to enroll in the Dell Expert Network. I'll get you assigned an account manager, get you set up, get you logged into the program and get you going. That's my other colleague, Wes. We both manage the program, so you can email either one of us. You can go to dell.com/expert network to learn more about the program, just to read more on the benefits that I've quickly touched on. And then if you want to have a phone call to discuss, does my company fit in the Dell channel or does my company fit in the Dell Expert Network better? Send me an email. We'll set up a call, I'll discuss that with you, and I can, take you through getting signed up. But for now, to wrap us up, I'm going to kick us back over to Scott.
Thanks, Alicia. And there's a couple of, let me give you a call to action, then we'll go to Q&A. I already have a question for Alicia, but I'll hold it for a second. So the call to action is start deploying Dell commercial PC solutions with the Intel vPro platform. If you need to know more about vPro, Esteban had a good short explanation of that. But if you need to know more, let us know and start utilizing your Dell Expert Network program benefits. So we'll go to Q&A. My first one is for Alicia. What's the cost of joining Dell Expert Network?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that at the beginning, but it's totally free to join as a program. So just send me an email, visit our landing page, and we can get you signed up.
Oh, good. Free is good. So
yep.
Got a couple other questions stacked up. One, Esteban, I love this question, if you were starting over, what would you do different?
That could be many, many things. I would probably say, again, make sure that you're diversified. Make sure that you have clients from all different verticals, because that is what saved us during COVID. If we had only focused on entertainment and hospitality, we would have been in real trouble in 2020. So make sure that you are nice and diversified, and also make sure that you don't spend money if you don't have it. Don't go out there and get a bunch of loans to buy all this equipment. You can start with very little and just grow from there.
Good advice. Really interesting question from you, Ting. How do you know when or if you should fire a bad customer? I think it's a great question.
And that's for me, Scott.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we just had to do that at the beginning of this month. I think that when communication breaks and your customers' expectations are expectations that are not reachable, it's when you have to move on. As much as you hate to lose the revenue, when you try to communicate with the customer, when you try to explain to them the processes and procedures and how you're going to attack the problem, how you're going to service their needs, and you show up to the customer when they tell you to show up and they're not there, so you just lost an hour of your day to go back and forth, and you're literally losing money on this, and it's becoming a high level of frustration. I think is best for both parties to just walk away. And so we just had to do, like I said, that at the beginning of the month, we tried to communicate with them. They were not willing to work with us. And it was also a brand new customer. And so we usually don't lose customers. We usually don't have this problem. But when this happened, I realized this is not going to work well. And we told them, hey, we're not going to charge you a penny to get you to your new IT company. And we'll make sure that we protect your endpoints until you're ready to move on to the next one. That's what we've done.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. Many MSPs that I've talked to over the years about this issue, they never just kick somebody out in the street, but move them to another provider who's better able to give them the level of service that they're willing to pay for and participate in. So, it's never just telling people, I don't like you, right? So that's a really interesting question. Another interesting question for Esteban. If in terms of building a security service, what key tools do you like? When you think of your security services, what are the key tools you're dependent on?
Well, I think, like you said, having the Intel vPro available, ensuring that you're buying Dell. And the reason we like to buy Dell is because you put the Dell command update. It tells you exactly what you need to install, and it'll prompt the user even when you're not there to install firmware updates, BIOS updates, and things like that to keep it secure. We also have we use a very robust antivirus web protection products that come with our dashboard or with our RMM tool. And we're very big in using Arachnus networks for smaller networks, or Sonic Wall for the bigger ones for our firewalls. So that's what we use. It's just easy to use, and you're able to do updates and monitor remotely with those solutions. I say that anything that you can monitor remotely, that's going to be your best friend.
Okay. Related question, and this is asked in a security context, but it could be beyond security. Do you partner with other MSPs or other service providers? And if so, how? Sure.
We have other MSPs that we're friends with, and we bounce questions from one another. We also have, we're members of the CompTIA ISAO, and this one is something that CompTIA just really released. And I don't know that I can put this on the thing, but the CompTIA ISAO is a membership base for MSPs and people in the IT industry. And what it does is the information sharing network. It's information sharing and analysis organization, and it's tailored to ensuring that you have proactive threat intelligence and actionable analysis when threats are happening. And so it's a great forum to be a member of, and to be able to know what's out there and what other MSPs are doing and security wise. so you don't have to go reinvent the wheel. And it's a really, really good tool that we've started using. And I'm very honored that CompTIA asked me to be on the board with them. Actually, it was through Dell that I got into the bowl for the CompTIA ISAO. And so those are tools that I would recommend that any MSP has. I think information is key, right? Is information and learning how to do these things, asking other MSPs. We work very closely with one Q3 Tech Group out of here in Arlington, Texas, and the owner, Kenneth Stewart, is a very close friend of mine. And we probably go to lunch twice a month and share stuff and ideas. And Kenneth has asked me, "Hey, I need help with this. I'm swamped right now. Can you please help me, go in and do an implementation with me?" Or when I go on vacation, I told Kenneth, "Hey, watch the shop in case there's a big thing happening and Luke is swamped, I need help with." And so, there's so much business out there for MSPs right now that there's plenty of meat on the bone. Do not be afraid of approaching what you see as your competition. Do not be afraid of approaching them and becoming friends with them. Because I'm here to tell you, God forbid, if you have an outbreak of a virus or you get hacked, one of your clients gets hacked, you may need to call in a favor and say, "I need help." So we work, like I said, very closely with Kenneth in Q3, and we also have friendships throughout not only Arlington but around the country with other MSPs that we share ideas with.
Cool. Got about 1 minute left. Esteban, I want to ask you this question. I love this question. What do you see on the horizon that has your attention, whether it's an opportunity or a problem or a challenge?
I think that I would love to know how we can start making all these apartment complexes that are going up intelligent. I think there is a huge opportunity out there for MSPs to be able to land a client like that, because I see apartment complexes that are going up that they're not giving you a physical key. You're using your phone to open the key or to open the door. So that's going to require tremendous amounts of, gear, hardware, cabling, also, probably residuals by bringing in fiber into those buildings. So that's an opportunity that I'm really looking and saying, man, this is pretty neat. And also homes, becoming smart. But also, again, the thing that I'm the most excited about is to see that information sharing between MSPs and being able to secure our customers, to be able to beat the hackers at their game. That's something that I think it's going to be great to watch as the years go by.
Very cool. Well, let me pitch it back to Gerald, but thanks, Rob. Thanks, Alicia, for all your inputs. Gerald?
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, to Alicia, Scott, and Esteban for a great presentation today. To access this webinar on demand, please head over to channelvisionmag.com and also keep an eye out for a follow-up email from Channel Vision. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.